You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well, good morning and hello, kids, and welcome to season 3 and episode number 66 of the Daily Beaver here on the Crider Media Network. We today recording day is Tuesday, February 28th, 2023, and it's going to be a mild winter day with mixed precipitation. Early, then sunshine later here at the Beaver Lodge. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronouns he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A. And as always with me is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. There's lots going on back there, so yes, exactly. Kit Ellen, where's Polly? That's why it took a little while. As you can see, Mr. Grizzly is not in his usual den. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Today we have a Tuesday morning show. I'm not exactly sure how long we have, given the different setup today, so Mr. Grizzly will clue us into that. But before we start, good morning, Mr. Grizzly. How's your mental health today? Thank you for doing this.
Well, good morning, Mr. Beaver. I am mental health-wise pretty good, actually. Not so bad. Slight mental health challenge this morning. A little stressed, a little anxious because can't get my headset to work. It is a remote location. I'm trying out some new equipment. This is the new digital box I was telling you about.
Okay.
So that when you're remote, this works wonderfully. You guys can hear me, which is good. I forgot a set of wired headset, like a plug-in set. I forgot to bring one with me because I had to switch bags to get all this stuff into the bag to get it here on time. And my Bluetooth headset won't connect to my laptop for some reason. So I'm using the laptop speakers, which are very, very quiet so they don't feedback with the mic. And, it's just a bit of a trying moment, but that's okay. I'm here. We're live. We're doing a show. We never let you down. A little bit late, but I don't want to let anybody down,
No. And thank you for your patience, kids. We got the comments already. Is Polly about to pull off an Ocean's 11's gig?
Yeah, I'm actually in a room full of equipment there.
Especially when you see all like the red lights behind you all glowing. It's like, what are you going to disconnect? Which wire are you going to cut? Ooh, it's so exciting. Who's going to pop
daylight.
down?
No, I'm in a closet, literally.
Yep. Well, there you go. So, that's ironic. You're in the closet. You know who else is in the closet? Pee-pee. He's been hiding in Harper's broom closet.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I'm gonna jump out for a few minutes. I'm gonna have to jump in and out a lot this morning, and I apologize, but I'll be back as soon as I can. So, sir, if you wanna run for a little bit, I'll be back shortly.
All right. Bon voyage. All right, kids. So, yeah, this is new. You're Eager Beaver flying solo for portions of the show. I hope that it's going to be a fun adventure. I do not know how I'm going to exactly pull this off because I'm actually used to having somebody to bounce some ideas off of and to actually speak while I'm searching for stuff every now and then. We sort of have this little dance going on. So you might have to be a little patient with me while I try to organize everything. But let's start with, as we were talking about, Skippy being in Harper's broom closet. People are asking for him to come out and address the press in some way. So far, everything he has said has been through statement, and he is doing some counter programming. He's gone to Newfoundland and Labrador, and he's putting out, videos about other subjects to try and still be part of the conversation because he doesn't want to disappear because he can't let a media moment go without him in it somehow playing and you know he never wants. I mean, this is the 24/7 rage machine, so he's got to be pressing that button somehow. So there's still stuff coming out. But other than the Ukraine rally, he hasn't really been seen all that much. And I noticed something really interesting yesterday while I was looking for stuff, and it struck me to take a look on Polliver's Twitter feed, as well as the Conservative Party of Canada's Twitter feed, to see if that statement that we showed you yesterday and read to you yesterday from that appeared on Brian Lilly's feed, where Pierre Polliver denounces the fact that Christine Anderson came to Canada and said that the party had no idea what she stood for and what her views were and who she really was. It seems that that statement does not appear anywhere at all on Pierre Polliver's personal Twitter feed, nor on the party's Twitter feed, at least at the time that I checked yesterday. That points me, or how would I say, it makes my spidey senses tingle a little bit. Because if he does not want to be seen at the moment, it's because he does not want any video at all that anybody can use of him trying to answer these questions. And that's probably even more so given how poorly his attempt at answering a question following the issuance of the Rouleau report came in, where he was asked one question and he went into immediate meltdown mode, attacking the CBC for a question that was asked to him not even by a CBC reporter. And even if it had been asked to him by a CBC reporter, I mean, seriously, the report just came out. What do you think? What's your thoughts? What your impression? Or what responsibility do you take for your part in it? Oh, there goes the partisan question. It's just so not connected, and it's the tone is wrong, particularly with in light of the prime minister having shown some humility afterwards about his part, or what is said that he contributed to the mess. So that didn't really go well for him. So clearly, if he's only got pugnacious and hit everything with a 500-pound sledgehammer as a response, this is not going to work in this instance. When you have three of your MPs dining, cavorting, taking pictures with, posting them, being proud of it, with potential Nazis, or suspected Nazis, I should say more than potential. That's never a good look. And I understand that he wants to avoid the media cycle, but leadership is about this type of thing. And it's not like this subject hasn't come up, right? Because along with the convoy, for which there was the Rula report. One of the issues with regard to the convoy was the fact that people with Confederate flags and swastikas did show up. So, and then he's got the big Tau thing. So you seem to have a recurring theme, pictures with people from Diagolon, and, there's a recurring theme. So at some point, there has to be a leadership thing. And, if you're saying these positions are vile and we don't support them in a statement that you have issued by someone else, but you don't want that statement on your Twitter feed, and you don't want it on your party's Twitter feed, and you don't want to be seen anywhere saying it so it can be captured on video, because all of those things would lead the very, very vocal, very, very militant PPC wing of that side of the political spectrum to say, there's yet more proof. So it's sort of that situation that you keep on hearing about when someone's dating someone because uh, the D or the rest is good, but they don't want to be seen with them. So they're always having dates at someone's place, but they're never going out.
Yeah.
They want to be seen with the statement that he's rejecting her in any way, shape, or form. This is a strategic decision because by this point, right, because that dinner at the Eglinton Theater where we had that video of that woman saying that we currently are in World War III, and that, Nazism never really ended, and that we're at the beginning of the Fourth Reich, or we need to build the Fourth Reich. It's the time of the Fourth Reich to rise, or whatever it is, that weird thing that we saw only 26 minutes of, but there was really 2 minutes of that kind of put the whole evening and the whole context, her whole visit in context. That's a step up moment. This one should be a layup. It should be a layup. And that was on the 21st. We are now the 28th. It's been 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah. Suspicious absence, to say the least.
This is not leadership. And here's the other thing, is that it goes completely against brand, right? Or the brand that he's trying to build. Not against his brand, because we know what his brand is. This is exactly what this is playing to type. But his brand that he's trying to portray, that I will give you back control of your life, and I will make Canada the freest country on earth. I will stand up and I will fight for you. If you can't remove 3 Nazis from your caucus, you're not standing up for Newfoundland and Labrador. If you can't show up in front of a podium and actually get video of the words, I do not support this, coming out of your mouth, you're not standing up for anyone. You're not fighting for anyone. If you can't give your party freedom from wannabe Nazis within them, you're not going to give people back their freedom. You're not going to give them. You're not in control of your party if you're doing that. You can't give people back control of their lives.
It's not a sign of leadership at all. It's weakness. He can't control his own party. Didn't Brian Mulroney rail on about Aaron O'Toole with this when O'Toole was in a similar position? Well, not a similar position, but in a precarious position about a year ago.
Where he had to take a stand. Poop or get off the pot. Stop playing both sides. Stop chasing both rabbits. Because you're going to catch neither.
Well, he's like,
that's
get
why
your party in order.
Pardon?
He was talking about get your party in order, get things together, organize. And no, there's no leadership there. This guy expects to be prime minister, and he can't even control his own party. It's a joke. He's a joke.
Well, that or he approves, right? It's one or the other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And even if he doesn't approve, he's still an anything to win guy. If he can get away with it, anything to win, so long as he can maintain the distance that it's not him. Now, he's going to do that same thing. Well, I put out a statement that I don't support that, the same way he stands up at the media. The few times he goes to the National Press Gallery and says, well, I'm here now. Well, the fact that you are here now doesn't negate the fact that you weren't here the last 5 months. Right? They can both be true. It's true that you are here now, and it's true that you've been avoiding us the last 5 months. So the fact you are here now doesn't change. It has absolutely no bearing. Pardon?
What have you done for me lately? As Janet Jackson would say, what have you done for me lately?
But that's what he's doing. He says, I'm doing this for you lately. I'm here right now. It's like, no. So you need to put in the work. You need to put in the work every day. doing a little XG here. You turned me on with them, Mr. Grizzly. I like them. I like them. Uh, I like them a lot. Yes. So let's say good morning to some kits. Kit Linda, Kit Saucy, Kit South Stands, Kit Elaine. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kit Hugh. Lovely to see you here. Have I missed anybody this morning? I think I've got everyone. So I was wondering yesterday, I kind of got really mad. Well, you know, if you heard the episode yesterday,
A
I
little
was
wired up.
less. I was riled up and less than impressed, and there were a couple of comments about me being saucy and whether or not it might actually be fun to see me as an MP in the House of Commons. Ah, and well, I got to asking myself, there are questions. There are questions. So for Brian Lilly, did you commit journalism and ask both Pierre Poliver and the CPC why the statement appears nowhere on either's Twitter feed?
Mm-hmm.
If not, why are you carrying their water? Why are you their messenger? Why are you the errand boy? Why is the
Well, he's not a
statement on your
journalist.
feed but not theirs?
He's not a journalist. A journalist wouldn't have done that. Like this, he's literally their water boy. I mean, come on. Like, who released it? Brian Lilly. It's not an official statement. It's not on letterhead from the party.
Mm-hmm.
Skippy didn't go on Twitter or YouTube. He's
Mm-hmm.
not been in front of he's not had a press conference or answered any questions, especially if the CBC would be asking him,
Yeah,
because
he's not even shown up enough to say, "Well, I put out a statement."
no, he hasn't even said that exactly.
That would be his go-to play.
Yeah, yeah,
Read my statement. I put out a
he's
statement.
done nothing.
Well, if you refer to my statement,
There was no statement. It was a paragraph written by Brian Lilly. We're told it was dictated to him by Skippy, but Skippy's not authenticated it.
I also looked under both tweets and replies. I looked under both to see if it was posted as a reply to a tweet and not as a main tweet. So,
Mhm.
because that's a way to get it on your Twitter feed without drawing too much attention. You just put it as a reply to something, but it wasn't even there. And it's just curious to me that Skippy and the Conservative Party of Canada would not want everyone to know that they reject Anderson interviews, that they would not be putting their own brand or their logo or their face to it. It seems that if they wanted everybody to know that, that's what they would be doing. They would putting their brand and their logo and their face and their voice to it. But somehow they don't want to do that. And that makes it just seems to be very curious behavior, because that seems to be something that you should not be ashamed or afraid to be seen in public saying. So it kind of makes me wonder who it is that they don't want to hear.
Hmm.
Perhaps the people
Well,
that donated about $20 million to convoys last year
well,
that the
that and
Conservatives would love to have in their fundraising coffers.
you saw the reaction on TikTok about how people immediately went for his head on a release that he apparently, supposedly, allegedly wrote. He's never admitted to it. So did he write it? Came from Brian Lilly. Who
There's a
knows?
question right there, right? Wouldn't that be the
Did he
first
write it?
question? Did you write that first statement? Because now you can't even cop up to that, because that first it was such a lie. Because now if he says that he can't even admit to have written the first one, because if he does, he lied, because
Yeah,
it's clear
yeah.
he lied, even though he would never acknowledge that he did, but he lied. And if he says he didn't write it, well, then that's a whole other scandal now, isn't it? Because it's been 7 days that people have been saying that it's come from him, and he said, no, it's not from me. So if he turns around and says, well, no, I don't really, and it took you 7 days to come to think that the Canadian public desire.
Yeah, rather suspect.
He'd be fucked.
Little suspect.
So, Mr. Grizzly, can we do share screens?
Yeah, we can.
Okay. Let's do this. So, given that he won't come to us on his feed, I put some inconvenient questions to him.
Hmm.
Why have you not yet addressed Canadians via the National Press Gallery with unlimited questions to speak to this issue personally? Why will you not put your voice and face to your denouncement of Anderson? Anderson stated your denunciation of her meant you had no business having your position and would have trouble being re-elected. Do you consider this meddling in our elections and domestic affairs? If so, why have you not defended our elections? Especially in light of the fact that you're making a big deal of us not defending them against China. Why are you not defending them against her? Inconvenient questions, like I said, and
Yeah.
questions that you ask when you're a member of the national debating team and you're able to pierce through. 4. I looked under both tweets and replies. It is not curious that your party would not want everyone to know you've rejected Anderson and her views, like I mentioned before. Ask him that. Why haven't you doing that? Why don't you want everyone to know? 5. If what you said about Anderson in your statement is indeed true, what will be the consequences for your 3 MPs in question for tarnishing the party brand, not only with a lack of proper vetting, but by taking photos of themselves dining with an extremist? Would seem to be that your employees have a duty to respect the party brand and promote it, right? And there should be consequences if they don't do that. If there is no consequence, why? If no consequence for that, will there be consequence for Colin Carey for having put the party's reputation at risk by sloppily deciding not to consult his staff or do proper pre-vetting before breaking bread with her? If not for meeting with her, will there be consequence for not following the vetting procedure? Because he skipped it. He admitted that.
I'm going to guess you haven't had a response to any of these questions, correct?
No, but not yet. Will there be consequence for Leslie Lewis for still being proud to have met with Anderson even after you've denounced this? Will there be consequence for insubordination that is damaging to the party? Did you indeed publish a false statement putting words into Dean Allison's mouth that he did not clear? If so, why? If not, how can we know for sure? Are you okay with him referring to her as allegedly a good lady? If Allison is contradicting your statement in public, causing the party embarrassment, will there be consequence for that? The video that we showed, 26
Mm-hmm.
seconds. Watch this. It's fewer than 30 seconds. The 3 MPs in question allegedly attended this event saying that we are already in World War III and that the Fourth Reich is coming. If they were indeed there, why? If there was no consequence for all the other things, certainly there would be for attending this type of dinner where these types of views are promoted. Would there not? If so, what will the consequence be? Are you okay with the activities going on in these photos? The one with Tamara Litch and Keith Wilson standing with Christine Anderson, and the one with Derek Harrison with Diagolon, given the weird variation on the dab. Do you now still support Tamara Leach and her role in the convoy now that she has met with the lady with vile views? Have you ever done the salute in photo 2? If no, will we find photos one day?
Good question.
Why was this guy at the Ukraine rally? Do you know this guy? If no, are you sure you don't know this guy? If still no, do you not know this guy in the same way you didn't know this guy? That's Jeremy McKenzie for people listening at home.
Mm-hmm.
If still no, what would you say are the odds that this guy you don't know was both at the Ukraine rally and posing with Anderson here? He seems to be a connective thread. And in this photo, he's talking about the 6 people who signed his hat, and she's the first non-Canadian.
Right.
PP, did you sign the hat?
I'm sure his signature's on it. I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be surprised if it wasn't, actually.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any prior knowledge of or involvement with this man being in the crowd at an event you attended with the camera filming as he heckled the Prime Minister? If not, did anyone in your staff or caucus? Did any of your donors? Did any of your donors was one I forgot to ask in the question, but I just thought of now. Back to Tamara. Now that Justice Rouleau deemed the convoy was indeed illegal, and this to the point of justifying the first ever invocation of the Emergencies Act, do you regret voicing support for it? For Lich? Do you? Maybe? Do you regret your previous interim leader and potential next leader, Marilyn Gladue, dining with such lawbreakers? Do you regret that they saddled your party with the burden of being viewed by most as having provided aid and comfort to an illegal occupation? Do you regret this moment? The one where he's delivering Timmy's? How does this mesh with your law and order / tough on crime message? Do you regret contributing to saddling your party and yourself personally with the burden of being viewed by most as having provided aid and comfort to an illegal occupation? Thank you for taking these questions. And before you ask, no, I wasn't sent by either the CBC or David Aiken to ask you them. Yeah, and maybe I guess saucy. Maybe Mr. Beaver needs to be the head of CBC and not an MP. Kid Linda, these are the questions that the media should be shouting at him. These are the things. These are things. I keep on saying this is the show. If you love politics, you get all the stuff. And if you hate politics, you come here too, because we yell the things that you are probably yelling at your TV screen and monitor too. And then saucy, spicy beaver every single day. Oh, I love you. I've been eating my habaneros. Well, you know, that's why we have the pepper master. Supporting this. That's where I get my spicy.
Well, yes.
So yes, a series of questions. And these are obvious questions. These are not even like me stopping and like trying to dig and like think of extra connections. These are like literally, I see this and this is what immediately pops to my head. Like, one person made the comment, I think it was Kit Hugh at one point, talking about my level of analysis when I appeared on Dean's show that day to do the show. And I don't know, maybe it's just because I've been in this field all the time, but I see something and I see, okay, that's connected to that. That's connected to, like, right away. It takes just like 30 seconds. Oh, that means this. And so to me, these seem obvious. Maybe, maybe they're not
really.
obvious questions.
It's easy for you to see because it's, for want of a better term, up your alley, right?
Right.
So for many others amongst us, myself included, oftentimes it's just not as visible. But when it's been something that you've been doing for decades, it's something you've been passionate about for decades and have been involved in to a level that most of us haven't, the picture just forms right in front of you, whereas I have to look a little bit harder to see it. I've never had the involvement, politically speaking, that you have had. I've always been interested and fighting for justice, punching up, not down. But my knowledge base is nothing compared to yours.
Mm-hmm.
My experience in the field is nothing compared to yours.
Well, just for the kids who know, right? Just to talk about, because there's maybe people here that are new. My experience is in political strategic communications. I've kind of worked on one campaign incidentally, touch a little bit at one point, and it was for leadership. But the candidate, unfortunately, one of their parents took ill during the campaign, and it never really went anywhere. So it's not like I've been working for politicians with Hill. I mean, I was a public servant within the public service, familiar with the rules and the regulations of the public service for doing communications and PR. And I just happened to be doing some on some pretty interesting files
Right.
along the way. But these are the same principles. They're the same basic principles within the public service as within on the hill. The stakes are higher. The reaction time is faster. The consequences are greater. The pitfalls are deeper. But it's the same game. It's just played faster. And often within the public, within politics, people who are seeking to get attention, whereas in the public service, where you want the programs or the policy to have the attention, but you want the people to be as invisible as possible, right? So it's but that's where I come from. So it really is the strategy, and a basic is if you have a message, if you have a program, how do you build that message into your policy building, into your program, so that your
Mhm.
policy actually reflects your message and it's not contradictory. And you can do that at the consulting phase, so you have participative management, so that you can get greater buy-in for the community, all that type of stuff. Public consultation. That was sort of where I was. So a lot of this is observing human behavior, and certain basic principles of communication, and then understanding, you know taking off the what I would like to be true or what should be, and just dealing with what is. Because that's the thing, right? I was listening to a conversation the other day where a father was talking to his daughters, about cell phone use, and
Mhm.
because it was new for us and it sort of invaded our lives and we had to make a change, but his kids had always had it. So,
Right.
they were really into it, like, for first few years, and now they've already started to adapt in their teens. No, I don't need it as much anymore. Whereas a lot of us were really addicted to it. We can't put it down. And he was like, well, is the cell phone a good thing, a bad thing? It's like, Dad, you're not getting it. It's the cell phone is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's a thing.
It's just there. Yes.
It's the
It's
thing.
always been there for them.
Right. So that's the thing. Politics is the same. It's
Mhm.
always been there, and it's
Yeah.
everywhere. And it's everywhere. It's at the office. It's where you volunteer. If you're on a condo board, politics is everywhere, right? It's just the level, the scale, the consequences. So it's human nature, and it's how people interact with each other, and it's how people come together to build something and fight for something and fight against something, and you know what rather than your ideals, as in an idealistic way, perfect utopia, how much are you willing to compromise, and the art of making that compromise, and knowing when to take a win and when to fight for more and all that kind of stuff. So when you start applying those principles of human behavior and looking at people as they are, and not as you would like them to be or as you would hope to be or as people should be, if everybody was decent and moral, and you know we weren't just human and sometimes frail and prone to failure, like we all are, because you know even the best people with the best intention can go through a moment, right? We had Sven Robinson all those years, who went through a moment that was difficult, and then there was a shoplifting incident that was totally out of character, but it happened. So even the person that's the most together, the most ethical, um, something can happen. Something can happen. So I don't know, man. It would just be nice. It would really, really, really. Yes, yes, Deborah. Kid Deborah, that was very sad, because he's a very good man. He's a very good man, and he tried to do a lot of good things. And just that will always be, when people talk about him. A lot of people will always talk about that. Might be some people that's all they know about him, right? Particularly if they weren't predisposed to liking him in the first place. Now, oh yeah, well, yeah, I remember he's the guy who did that. And yeah, as Kit Ellen says, it's a privilege to be able to ignore politics. It is, to know that no matter what happens, you're going to be okay. Yep, yep. I agree. I agree. More comments. Hugh, Mr. Beaver going Duke Nukem on CPC is why I'm here. And I think I saw somebody say something. I think, yes, Elaine, he has been sprinkling some spice into his hot chocolate. Yes, indeed, I have. And somebody was mentioning the movie Chocolat. Yes, saucy sea witch. Yep. And yes, exactly. Chili and chocolate. It's a great combo. I actually do that. I put crushed chilies in my hot chocolate when I want a gourmet one. Some cinnamon, some nutmeg. If I have some essence of orange, do that too. So yes, the movie of Chocolat did inspire me to go a little more gourmet with my hot chocolate every now and then. Because the hot chocolate's a treat to myself, but every now and then I want to treat myself just a little more. So yeah, it's a little indulgence. I like it very much. All right. Moving on from them, there's another story in the news these days that I've been picking up, and it's the story of Liberal MP Han Dong. It has to do with the revelations that they showed up in global news first, and then again more in the Globe and Mail, that the Communist Party of China during the 2019 election, through its Toronto consulate, may have tried to stack the nomination race for
Hmm.
the riding he represents in his favor, assuming that he would be sympathetic to their cause. Now, it is reported that close to a dozen people had received some type of assistance, but it appears that the reason for which he has been singled out, I guess, for this type of yet another leak, I would assume, is because it was assumed, or that there was the possibility that, unlike the others, he may have been a witting accomplice rather than unwitting. We don't know how much that is true.
Hmm.
We don't know how much that is not true. Right. And we possibly can't know because a lot of that will involve security information.
That's right.
Right. It's
Skippy's already been trying to beat that horse to death constantly. I've seen him release a bunch of tweets about it, but he still hasn't addressed the Nazi
yeah.
thing. So he
Yep.
will just beat that one to death.
Well, yeah, everything's deflection, right? I mean,
Yep.
even the other day, I mean, like today's the last day of Black History Month, and you saw on his Twitter feed, he had photos with him and Leslin at an event with people from the Black community,
Huge.
and and it's almost like, oh my God, quick, change the channel, Leslin, you all know each other, right? Organize a little meeting or something. I just, and it was probably like, that's just me being cynical. It's, Black
Mm.
History Month. It was probably organized all along, but it's just like, yeah, these are the photos I'm going to release today. Look, we're not Nazis. We're hanging around with black people. Not saying Skippy's a Nazi, but he's not very anti-Nazi either. I
I
will
did
just say
not
that.
see that coming.
Yes. 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 So, former head of CSIS, Richard Fadden, says that there is no way that the agency would ever tell a party not to run a candidate. So, whatever you hear there, conservatives sort of inferring that CSIS told them that he was troll and told them that they shouldn't run and they let him run anyway. That's not exactly how it works. Now, there are calls for a full public inquiry dealing with this, and that one is a bit of that one's a real honest debate. It's I'm sort of 50-50 on it when
Hmm.
I'm thinking about it. Now, the NDP's Peter Julian wants a full public inquiry just on principle. Right? There's been an attempt at interference. It seems like there's a serious attempt. This might have been, again, an initial probe for China to see how much they can get away with it before a larger attempt or something. And just on a point of principle, there is a legit reason to maybe look into this more. Is it? Well, I mean, not maybe, there is a legit reason to look into this more. Does it require a full public inquiry? This is sort of the question. You have Michael Cooper, that little shit. who also supports a full public inquiry. But him, it's not on the principle. He says it's because the NDP is cooperating with the Liberals in committee to block production of documents and has shielded the PMO staff, such as Katie Telford, and shielded relevant ministers in function during the 2021 election. And he wants all the names of the candidates that were to be released that received some type of aid. Because why? What if China is still trying to get to them? What if it's an active investigation? What if they're probing for like this? What, you want them to blow up the investigation by making the names public? Because it's not like the
Mhm.
government of China is going to keep on supporting them if the names go public, right? It's not like you're going to find out more about the system and who's involved. Stuff is just going to stop. So I don't, or maybe there was nothing there, so there's no need to release their names and sully their reputations, right? Because that's another thing. All these 13 people or 11 people or however number there are, once their names go public, you can't unring that bell. So unless there's a compelling reason to drag their names through the mud and have that be forever associated with them whenever you do an internet search, it's probably not a good idea to ask for all the names to be released at the moment. And he's always saying this in the context that China was trying to tip the scales in favor of the Liberals against conservatives, though he never mentions that in certain writings, not a lot, but there were a few conservatives who were also assisted. So when the conservatives are talking about this, they're talking about it all as a spin that was only for the Liberals' benefit and directly for the Liberals' benefit, and the Liberals didn't do anything because they knew they were benefiting. That's assuming a lot. That's ascribing a lot of intent with no facts to back it up. So a lot of people are asking about, well, what do we have to protect against that? And the Liberals, of course, unsurprisingly, are not for a full public inquiry at this moment. I'm not exactly sure that would be wise at this moment to be so against it. I would probably have cautioned more sort of a wait and see, or let's get more information to see if that's this is serious. Let's get more information to see whether or not that's something at that level is warranted. But a straight full out no as at the get go, or resistance at the get go, may not be the best opening bid here. But they are opposed to it by saying that during the election period, there is a special expert panel that is there to look at things that are going on. But that panel is only in place during the election, and they write a report every year. So the 2021 report is still due to come out, which I found very, very interesting because Justice Rouleau was able to get a 300-page report out and have the whole inquiry in about 4 or 5 months. And well, this is an election that happened in 2021 and the report still isn't out yet, but it's coming really soon. Of course, Rouleau had different powers and different mandates, and maybe less need to coordinate with other levels of many other levels of government to get it done. So that might have something to do with the time it takes. So we have that committee, which is the first thing. So every time when we have an election, there's a special committee of experts that come together to monitor things, who get to, and that's to take it out of the hands of the part of any partisan body during an election campaign itself, to see if there's anything, and if there's a need to warn, then they do. And then there's something called the NSICOP, or the National Security Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, which was set up not that long ago. I don't I think it might be by this government, or it may have been around the end of the last government's term. But it's basically similar to that thing in the United States, I think, where they have that special small group of people that are allowed to go and watch, see all the documents before they're redacted and to know what it is, but they're not allowed to speak publicly. That's the committee to which the Conservatives had appointed Michelle Rempel Garner for a while in order to give her something of importance, but take her out of the media spotlight, because often when you're on that committee, you can't really say much. And that was their way to neutralize her. Mr. Cooper's colleagues, says MP Mark Garrettson, sit on that committee. They have access to that information. So do the NDP. So to suggest that the information isn't available, I think is not completely true, because it is available, but it is done in a way that respects the classification of that information. And there are 2 Conservative MPs on that committee. Now, for people who are wondering, well, what about the people? What are they supposed to know? When are they supposed to know it? How do they find out? Well, the way that this is supposed to work, if we're talking about civics, is that the parliamentarians on the committee see it, assess the information, they tell their colleagues what they're allowed, and sometimes might be just like that everything's cool, right? We don't need to worry. And or they say, yes, we have to raise our vigilance. So, raise our vigilance, or we can be reassured, but they can do one or the other with that information. That's what we hope. Third option is that they can try to weaponize the information that they've received in a certain way while still respecting the rules about how much they're allowed to share. So because, they can say, I've seen the information and, oh my God, it's terrible. Well, there's no way for us to really know if that's true. Just like there's no way for us to know if it's good. But if all the people who saw the information are not saying it's terrible and some are, you might want to wonder why. It's a red flag. It's a question. So the word honorable in the title of our MPs is supposed to mean something. When they have access to top secret information to which the general public and even full caucus cannot have access, the word honorable is there to tell us that on such critical matters, that the word of the person assigned to observe that top secret information can be trusted. If you're not behaving honorably with that information, you're not doing your job correctly as an MP. That's the point. That's the reason why we put honorable. That's the reason why we assume in the House of Commons that the MPs would not lie or misrepresent. Because when it comes time to have faith in our democratic institutions, we can look up to them, and if they tell us that everything's okay, that they've checked, we can trust that it is indeed true because they are honorable. That's the civics of it. People are playing fast and loose with it. Jerry Butts, who's the Prime Minister's former principal secretary and the current vice chair of the Eurasia Group, which is a geopolitical think tank, actually agrees with the idea of calling for an inquiry, because it would be a good idea in general, given the rapidity with which the international political game and the overall willingness of an increasing number of nations to be more brazen in their interference attempts. The game has changed. The game has changed. It's easier for people to get in. The opening bid is much lower now than it used to be when it comes to election interference. So, and to do this with a view of developing a strategy to strengthen our democratic institutions to deal with threats. He's quoted as saying in an interview yesterday, there's been lots of ink spilled about how this is good for one party or good for another party. What foreign actors, in particular countries like China and Russia, are interested in is eroding citizens' faith in their democratic institutions over time, regardless of who is in power, because that makes, whoever that is, it makes it more difficult for them to act in the national self-interest. So it's not about them wanting the Liberals to win or wanting the Conservatives to win. They just want the set of conditions that are more favorable to creating disruption. And that, in that case, it's a Liberal minority, because the fact of a Prime Minister Trudeau drives 1/3 of the country absolutely batty and appears to have set them off on a dedicated mission to try and burn the whole place down.
Hmm.
The very fact that he breathes is enough for them to want to burn. So of course China wants the Liberals to be in power as much as possible. They think that's the way that that's the best way to get the Conservatives mad enough to destroy the entire country and ruin our democratic institutions, so that they can then look at their people and say, "See, that's what democracy does for you. Aren't you better off here? Now let us do more things to you." So, so he's saying that that's why it's important to pull this out of the realm of the politics, the committee at the House of Commons in which this is being discussed at the moment, with all the shenanigans that can go on there, and to be brought into an objective place, but to broaden the scope of it to beyond it just 2 election cycles and just China. Because election interference is a thing and many countries are involved in it now. We were always told it was a possibility, he said, when he was in the role as working for Trudeau himself before he stepped down. We were always told that it was a possibility. To a certain degree, as a G7 country, Canadians should be insulted if adversarial countries aren't trying to interfere in our elections. It's a reflection of our status around important multilateral tables that would be happening. So this thing from the Conservatives running around with their hair on fire, going, oh my God, and acting like all this is new. It's like, no, it's like, why wouldn't they be? It'd be sort of like, hey, wait a minute. You know, you're at the dances. Wait a minute, you've asked everybody to dance but me. What the? Why aren't you trying to get our secrets? What's wrong with us?
Am I not good looking enough? Am I not charming enough? Do I not have enough charisma for you?
Like, what the hell,
Why
guys?
are you ignoring me?
I got state secrets right here. Like, come. Nope.
I actually had somebody yesterday or the day before. I posed the question to Skippy. It's like, why have you not addressed the Nazis in the room? And somebody responded to me with, well, I'm sitting here waiting for Polly's World to explain why there was election interference with China. To which I responded, I'm not the leader of the official opposition, nor am I a politician. I want to know why the leader of the official opposition has not addressed the Nazis in the room. And I knew that we would get to the possible election interference story, but there's just not enough information released about it that we're going to be privy to, because state secrets are involved and espionage techniques are involved, and a lot of that stuff will just be completely redacted. We'll never see it.
Yep, that's why we're doing the civics part, because that's all we can do.
Exactly.
To defend against the bullshit. So he also said, I find it really hard to believe, because it's not what CSIS does, that they would make any kind of policy recommendation to the government. It's not their function in the system. Their function is to make policymakers and their supporting public service staffers foremost aware of any potential threats. It is not to them to make recommendations about what to do about those threats. So he supports the public inquiry for the good of the long-term health of our democratic institutions, because it would be a good time to reach across party lines to take a deeper look at what's going on, because it's just basically in the public interest. The other person on that committee that was interviewed is Senator Ian Shugart, who was recently nominated to the Senate by Prime Minister Trudeau. He's a former Privy Council clerk, and he's the person who chaired the 2019 election period panel, so the one before the previous, the one that we just had. He said, we on the panel at no point in the 2019 election were presented with information that said this has the potential to distort things in such a way that the outcome of the election either locally or nationally could be affected. But our mandate, our remit, would have allowed us to do interventions on either scale, either local or national. So that committee, if there was something that had come up during the election, would have been able to intervene even at the electoral district level. So that's something that Canadians need to know. So even if a single riding was going to be flipped, which is something that the Conservatives are suggesting, none of them are suggesting that the whole election result. But what about this one riding? What about that one? Right? The what about? That's the thin edge of the January 6th stuff that they're trying to bring in, election denialism and all that kind of stuff there. What about that one? This committee could have acted at the local, at the electoral district level, as well as the national level. Then he says, sometimes you inform a campaign of interest by outside entities, let's call them that, and ask them to be alert, but at no point did we have information even that one riding had the potential to be flipped. That was 2019. All I can tell you is that it is a delicate and sometimes inexact science what the agencies do with the information that they have. But there is a real risk in going too far, too fast with information, which is what we were talking about earlier, if you don't have a solid enough basis. For example, in interventions or involvement or interference that might involve criminal activities, you want to be very clear that you've got enough evidence before you spring the trap and actually take criminal consequences, actions towards that intervention, that interference. So that's the difficulty. That's the sensitivity with this kind of information. You can be aware that there is interest, that there is the beginnings of interference, but it has not yet gotten to the point where you can know definitively where it is going, what the purpose is, how it is going to play out, and we had no evidence that it was actually affecting the outcomes of the campaign. I think the government, any government, whoops, there's some noise there coming up. That's really weird. Okay, it seems to have stopped. Sorry about that, kids. I don't know what that was. Let's go back again. Let's see where we were. Where was I? Okay, there we go. Yeah. That's the sensitivity with this kind of information. You can be aware that there is interest, that there is the beginnings of interference, but it has not yet gotten to the point where you can know definitively where it is going, what the purpose is, how it is going to play out, and we had no evidence that it was actually affecting the outcome of the campaign. I think the government, any government at any time, should be as transparent as possible, as clear about the information that is known as possible. I would even venture to say that at this time, the government should err on the side of transparency. Some of our colleagues in the intelligence agencies may shudder at the erring on the side of transparency, but I think it's important. But it is in the nature of intelligence information that much of that information can never see the light of day because of operational sensitivity. It is very real. It has to do sometimes with the partiality, the incompleteness of the information. Sometimes it has to do with people who are vulnerable to action by the other side if you divulge the information. We have entities that have been set up precisely for the purpose of oversight of our national intelligence agencies. One of them being the NSICOP that I was talking about earlier, but there's also a National Intelligence Security Review Agency that reviews what our national intelligence bodies do as well. He goes on to say, my inclination is that while an inquiry might do useful work, there's going to be a very substantial amount of information that they are not going to be able to divulge to the Canadian public, and there is still going to be, in some quarters, an appetite for that information. I'm afraid that appetite in large measure can never be satisfied, which is why we have these two entities to provide institutional oversight of our intelligence agencies. So he's basically saying that he guesses that there could be some good, but there's going to be no process of public inquiry that is going to lead to complete satisfaction to people who want to know all the ins and outs and details of what our national intelligence and national security apparatus knows about this situation and how it handled it. Because again, it can reveal sources, it could reveal methods, it could reveal informants, it could put people in danger, it could possibly ruin people's information if it's based on incomplete information and there's something exonerating that they don't know about yet. These are all things that you don't want to do to people, and you want to be very, 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 very careful. Very careful. So the Prime Minister, and before they do that, before I get to there, the report for the 2021 election is being written by this guy named Morris Rosenberg. And conservatives are already trying to dismiss him because he once served as the chief executive officer of the Trudeau Foundation. Don't be fooled. The truth about this man is that he is a lifelong public servant who has served both under conservative and liberal governments, and he was John Baird, conservative pitbull John Baird, under Harper's deputy minister. So, not a liberal partisan. It's not a liberal partisan. But they're already trying to discredit the author of the report, so therefore the report. Because if you can't discredit the report, discredit the person who wrote it, I guess. The report's not out. They got nothing to shoot down yet. But the fact that they wish to bet that they're already going with the preemptive strike before the report is already out. They don't care what's in the report. They don't care what's in the report. There's no need to try and take this person down before actually seeing the report and its contents. So, man, kids, I tell you, we are in a really interesting situation. I never, ever thought that I would, when I started writing, 11 years ago, or close to 12 years ago now, for the blog page, and certainly when I started doing the podcast, that I'd be talking about potential Nazi sympathizers in our government. Like, my mind is just, my mind is blown. And yes, I mean, you saw my, my sauciness a bit yesterday, but I'm not really completely losing my cool, and I'm trying to remain somewhat together and calm and, rational, because, there's no need to panic unless it's actually time to panic. It's just wasted energy. But what the fuck? Yeah, Saucy, do we all miss the old Canadian politics now? Although I wonder if that was a guise. It was never boring. It just didn't get as much coverage, or I guess wasn't as thrilling as the United States was, but just our system of governance is just such an interesting. That's why I'm a political junkie. The fact that we have more than two parties, and just the competition of ideas, and the way that we are willing to, progress with the times of society. We had multiculturalism and then official bilingualism, and now we're talking reconciliation, and we've advanced on, rainbow rights, and and my vision of Canada, as a kid growing up, is a country that just, slowly but surely, every day gets a little better. We keep plugging away at it. We do better in some things, and then some things come down and they break, and we try to fix those. And then, a left curve, we get a left curveball out of left field, and, we deal with that. But, and we just have this, neighborly thing, and, we help each other out, and, we just try to make things a little bit better every day, and I don't know, man. This is really, I'm not panicked, but I am very concerned. I'm very, very, very concerned. I'm disturbed, and I'm not comfortable. I'm definitely not comfortable. I am not comfortable. I don't have that feeling that I can ignore politics now. I used to be in politics and doing all that because I loved it. Now I'm feeling I need to do this, which is weird. The love is still there, but I won't lie. This is not normal. This is not right. I am not comfortable, and none of us should be.
Agreed.
None of us should be. All right, a couple of little end bits that are maybe a little lighter because this one was really heavy.
Super heavy, dude. And I apologize. I wasn't able to participate as much as I would like to today, but duty calls, right?
Hey, you allowed a show to happen, right? No, I mean the show must go on. I guess. I
Oh,
mean, it's not
exactly.
actually show business, but I mean, and the kids surely would have understood if we needed a day off. They're great, our audience
I'll,
is
I'll,
fantastic.
I'll
But
have proper headphones for tomorrow, and maybe I'll bring a different camera because this is my laptop camera, and you can tell it's not very good. It's really not that good.
oh man, so let's see. What's the Eager Beaver Party of Canada? Oh my word! Wow, wow. Okay. Gee, uh, wow. Gee, people, please, my head. Let's keep it. Let's keep it in the frame. All right. So,
Don't give them a
some,
swelled head.
yeah, yes, some happier maybe in bits, end bits. Just little tidbits here that I picked up here and there that might be interesting. There's the crown. The Manitoba government says that more than 13,000 displaced children from Ukraine have enrolled in its schools, and as a consequence, 11 schools are offering an English Ukrainian bilingual program. So there you go. Just little things being done right. The FDA in the United States has approved a new at home test that will be able to tell you whether you have COVID or the flu. So sometimes when you get that sniffle and you're sitting there go, well, it doesn't show it up as COVID positive. I don't know what it is really. Well, if it is the flu, this one might be able to tell you. In Hong Kong, the mask mandate is being dropped starting tomorrow, and it is
Oh,
apparently one of the last places globally to do so. And AstraZeneca is spending about $500 million to expand its facilities around Toronto, creating 500 jobs in clinical studies on cancer and research on rare diseases. And there has been no government investment in this expansion. They just like this so much and had such good experience the first time that they're investing more.
aren't they a Swedish company, AstraZeneca?
I have
Swiss or
no idea,
Swedish?
but
And
I,
the countries are very different. One is in Northern Europe, right? One is in Central Europe, but it's not part of the European community, which is weird.
yes, British Swedish pharmaceutical company.
Yeah, Switzerland is its own island unto itself.
Yes.
It's smack dab in the center of Europe, but it's not part of Europe. They don't use the euro; they use the Swiss franc, which is pegged to the U.S. dollar. They're just a very unique country. They are, they are the Swiss. They do what they do. I've been there 15 times, I think, or something like that. So, one of my dear friends lives there. It's a lovely
Mm.
country.
I was right at the border when I was in Como. We were like where we were staying. Well, we weren't staying in Como specifically. Like we were in the overall region Como, and where we were staying was this little town
Mhm.
that you had to take a bus, but it was only like 15 minutes up the hill or something. But for where we were staying, literally 3 minute walk, we were at the Italy Switzerland border,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
was kind of cool. But we never actually went in because we
Well, it's
we were on foot and we didn't have anywhere to go.
I've spent a lot of time in Switzerland around Geneva because that's where my friend lived. Now she lives in Zug, which is 40 minutes south of Zurich. So she went
Mhm.
from the western part of the country, the far western. Geneva's like literally right on the border. It's a 10-minute walk and you're in France.
Mm.
Mont Salève, which is a cliff face that they use for hang gliding and stuff, that's actually in the French side. Now the funny thing is, when you cross the border, there's a border station there. There's never anybody in it. It's decorative. It's decorative.
uh,
But yeah, I love Switzerland and I love Geneva as well. And Zurich is also quite lovely. Switzerland is just a beautiful country.
yeah, yeah, I'd love to go. I had plans to go once. I dated a Swiss German for a while.
Well, I was supposed to go last autumn when I was taking my a vacation, and then I got sick for the first time in 3 years,
Mm.
so I had to
I want.
cancel.
Apparently, there's something called the Shoki train, which is a train that goes from place to a couple of places, and you get to sample chocolate. They serve
Oh,
chocolate,
not
but
familiar
yeah,
with that.
That's the thing I was looking for the most. And another little cool and interesting tidbit. The foreign minister of Saudi Arabia actually visited Kyiv and pledged
Oh yeah.
$400 million in aid. That's something I did not. I was just listening to that in on the news, and my ears just picked right up. Whoop. That was kind of interesting. And it seems that South Africa really is much more on the side of Russia. Unfortunately, I was wondering if it was just convenience, but it seems that there may be closer. There was some historical things, relationship between South Africa and the Soviet Union around the time of ending of apartheid. It seems that maybe
Mm.
they helped somewhat, so there's some loyalty there, historical loyalty that may be historically at the source of that. So there you go. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
I believe we do, sir. I believe we do.
All right.
Minimal participation from me today, but tomorrow's another day.
Yes, yes. Kits, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver podcast. We hope that you love listening to us because we love making this show for you, and obviously do because, we go through all this effort to make sure that you get a show. Oh, yes, the one thing I forgot to mention, 7 provinces have now signed on with the federal government for the health deal, the
Oh,
bilaterals.
okay.
Already 7. So Alberta is the latest one. They did not save themselves for
That's
last.
good.
So there you go. Ontario's already signed as well. The 4 Atlantic provinces. I think Manitoba may be the 7th, but don't quote me on that one. But there we go. The deal is happening, and then 2 Alberta's and BC, I believe, are coming out with their budgets very, very soon. So Alberta had to finalize that as quick as possible. Remember, sharing is caring, and word of mouth is priceless. And you have the beautiful mouths that we want the word coming out of. So please let everyone you know about us, and even let people you don't know just like scream it randomly on the street. Hey, you need to listen to your. No, don't do that because we don't want weird things happening to you. Because democracy is something you do. I'm going to have the same one as yesterday because I'm really bothered. Take some time. If you haven't done it, write your MPP, write your MP. Hell, throw in a couple of your senators while you're at it too. Um, let them know. Let them know. All right. This is not okay. You're not standing for it. Let them know that that you are not going to vote for them. Not only are you not going to vote for them and not donate to them if they do not take a clear stand against this, but that you are going to make it your mission to get everybody in your circle of influence also not to vote for them.
Exactly.
Like, this is that important. It's like not
Mhm.
only do I not like this, I'm going to make it my mission to make sure that nobody effing votes for you if you do not. I do not see you doing this. Like I said, you got to punch 5 times as hard every time because
So,
listen, these people are slow learners. They are slow learners, the people that are trying to bring this movement back. So, Mr. Grizzly says punch Nazis, make it a 5-to-1 ratio.
yeah.
Because
Oh, yeah.
if it's just one, and then, it's like just, they do not learn quickly. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on Crier Media Network as well as all Beaver Grizzly friendly platforms. Stars and reviews are appreciated. I just had to download something yesterday. That's a tough word for me. Stars and reviews are appreciated. need to get my gold bond. No, sorry, the gold bond is the powder. What's that thing? C bond
See,
for my
yes,
dentures.
yes.
We love to hear from you. Reach us on our Facebook at True North Eager Beaver, on our Twitter feed at True Eager, and by email at truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. You can subscribe to us via our podpage, podpage.com, the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. That's podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver with a hyphen between each one of those words. And once we have something fresh off the bandwidth, we will deliver it straight to you. we can't do this without your kind and generous support. So if you feel that we've done a particularly good show today or lately or just in general, and if you're watching and want to support us, well, that little QR code you see above Mr. Grizzly's little box there, well, that will lead you to our tip jar. And if you are listening, our tip jar can be found at ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, all in one word, lowercase letters. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. And that's where you will find our tip jar, and you can let your fingers do the walking and leave us a little something so that we can have, get your Eager Beaver some spicy hot chocolate. And I don't know, maybe I'll throw a little extra spice in tomorrow's show too. I don't know. I'm just motivated. All right. And if you like to get something for your money because you are a smart and savvy shopper, then we have that fresh, good quality, primo Eager Beaver merch that you demand. You asked for it. We gave it to you. Mr. Grizzly Civic Tees, Eager Beaver Tees designed by our good mate, Aussie Pete, and they can be yours for a very, very, very beautiful price in these inflationary times. Let everybody you know that you are an informed and engaged citizen by wearing our merch, and you can get it at the address that Mr. Grizzly just put there, and that little QR code that was at the bottom of the screen with all that little shiny, groovy graphics. Or if you are listening, you go to crier.co/crier-media-shop and just click on all the tabs that bring you to True North Eager Beaver merch and buy yourself some fabulous today. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver saying, until next time, dear kits, it could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. And, grab your MP by the shoulders and give him a little shake. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom before we go?
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my same words of wisdom from yesterday. You can see it on the scrolling Chiron. I don't know how to pronounce it. It's chaos. Be kind. Except for Nazis. Punch them.
5-1.
5-1.
All right, Mr. Grizzly, roll those credits. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver media podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community and forum, and The Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from fresh farm ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Yeah, I just noticed before we left that Kit Hugh just offered me 2 jobs.
Oh, there you go. All
Yeah,
right.
he said he's might
Yeah,
run in Hastings Lennox just to get
we're
FaceTime with
still
these
live.
clowns, but
We're still live.
yeah. I
We're
guess
still
might run in
live.
Huntington just to get FaceTimes with these clowns, but if I did, I'd want Douglas telling me what not to say. And then he offered to be my chief of staff if I create. So I'm confused now. It's an embarrassment of riches. Have a nice day.
Cool. See ya.